I sit here staring at my phone, reading yet another guilt-tripping message from my mother about how I should give my half-sister one of my apartments. The audacity of her request doesn't surprise me anymore. No matter how many times I block her number, she finds new ways to reach me. Text messages, emails, even comments on social media, all demanding the same thing. To understand why I'm so adamant in my refusal, we need to go back 20 years. I was 6 when my world fell apart. Mom sat me down one evening in our living room, her face oddly calm as she twisted her wedding ring, and told me she'd fallen in love with someone else. Dad was moving out. I remember watching him pack his things, while Mom hovered impatiently by the door, checking her watch every few minutes. Mom didn't waste any time. The ink was barely dry on the divorce papers when she married Steve, and he moved into our house. Everything changed overnight. My princess drawings disappeared from the fridge, replaced by Steve's work schedule. My favorite cereal vanished from the pantry because Steve preferred healthy breakfast options. It was like someone had taken my home and rearranged everything just slightly wrong. Dad sent regular alimony checks and tried to see me when he could, but his business kept him busy. Our visits grew shorter and less frequent, always interrupted by urgent phone calls about meetings and deals. Then, when I was 8, my half-sister arrived. I still remember standing in the hospital hallway, watching through the glass as Mom cradled her new baby, with Steve beaming beside them. That was the moment I became invisible in my own home. They named her Lisa, and suddenly, everything revolved around her schedule, her needs, her wants. "Rachel, keep it down," became Mom's favorite phrase. "The baby's sleeping." "Rachel, go to your room," Steve would say. "Your mother needs to focus on the baby." "Rachel, we can't help with your homework right now." "Lisa has a fever." "Rachel, eat dinner in your room tonight." "Lisa's fussy and needs quiet." I grew up with a roof over my head and food on my plate, but love and warmth were luxuries I didn't get to experience. My bedroom became my sanctuary and my prison. I'd spend hours there, doing homework, reading books, or just staring at the ceiling, trying to make myself as small and quiet as possible. Steve made no secret of his dislike for me. He'd sigh heavily whenever I entered a room, or mutter under his breath about baggage from the past. Late at night, I'd hear them talking through the thin walls of my bedroom, their voices carrying clearly in the quiet house. "She should be living with her father," Steve would say. "She doesn't belong here. Look how she mopes around the house. She's making Lisa uncomfortable." "We can't send her away," Mom would reply in a harsh whisper. "Mark's alimony is too important. We need that money. Have you seen how much Lisa's dance classes cost? Besides, the mortgage." Those whispered conversations taught me everything I needed to know about my place in this family. I wasn't a daughter, I was a paycheck. A means to an end. A necessary inconvenience they tolerated for the monthly deposits my father made into their account. Every time I heard them talk like that, a little piece of my heart would harden, building up walls that would eventually become impenetrable. As I grew older, the distance between me and my mother's family grew into a canyon. Every summer vacation became a stark reminder of where I stood in their hierarchy. While they packed their bags for beach resorts and theme parks, I'd be shuttled off to Dad's place like an afterthought. "We just can't afford an extra ticket, Rachel," Mom would say, not quite meeting my eyes. "But you'll have fun with your father, won't you?" The truth was, I did have fun with Dad, even though our time together was punctuated by business calls and urgent meetings. He'd sit with me during breakfast, his phone constantly buzzing, looking at me with guilty eyes. "I'm sorry, Princess," he'd say for the 100th time. "The business is really taking off, and I need to be available. But look what I got you." And out would come the latest iPhone, or a new laptop, or the newest gaming console. I remember the day he gave me my first MacBook. His eyes lit up watching me open it. "This is for all those weekends I had to cancel," he said. "I know it doesn't make up for it, but..." "It's perfect, Dad," I told him, and I meant it. Not because of the expensive gift, but because of how his face brightened when I hugged him. But my happiness would always be short-lived. The moment I returned home with any new gadget, the storm would begin. "A MacBook?" Lisa would screech, her face turning red. "That's not fair. I want one too." She'd stomp her feet, tears streaming down her face, even though she was 8 years younger and barely knew how to use a computer. "Look what you've started," Mom would hiss at me, while Steve stood in the corner, arms crossed, glaring as if I'd committed a crime. The pattern was always the same. Lisa would throw a tantrum, Mom and Steve would pace around anxiously, and within a week, they'd cave and buy her the same thing. It didn't matter if she was too young for it or didn't need it, she had to have exactly what I had. One particularly bad episode involved an iPad Pro. Lisa's meltdown lasted 3 days straight. "I hate you," she screamed at me. "You always get better stuff. It's not fair." Mom finally snapped. I overheard her angry phone call to Dad that evening. "Mark, this has to stop," she demanded. "These expensive gifts are causing problems in my household. Lisa gets upset, and we can't afford to keep matching your presents. Either buy something for both girls or don't buy anything at all." The next weekend, Dad picked me up looking more serious than usual. We drove to our favorite diner, and over chocolate milkshakes, he broke the news. "Rachel, honey," he started, "your mom called me about the gifts." My heart sank. "I'm sorry, Dad. I don't mean to cause trouble." He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. No, you haven't done anything wrong. But I think we need to be smarter about this. I won't be giving you any more expensive gadgets." I nodded, trying to hide my disappointment, but then he smiled. Instead, he continued, lowering his voice, "I've opened a college fund for you. By the time you graduate high school, you'll be able to go to any university you want." My eyes widened. "Really? Really? But this has to be our secret, okay? Don't tell your mom or anyone else. This is just between us." I nodded eagerly, feeling for the first time like I had something truly mine, a future that nobody could take away or demand to share. The day I graduated high school should have been filled with celebration. Instead, just a week later, I found myself sitting at our dining table, pushing food around my plate while Mom cleared her throat. "Rachel," she said, setting down her fork. "Now that you've graduated, we need to discuss something important." I already knew what was coming. The way she'd been eyeing my room lately, the whispered conversations with Steve, it wasn't hard to guess. "Lisa needs her own space now that she's 10, Mom continued. "She's growing up, and your room would be perfect for her. It's time for you to move out." Steve nodded vigorously beside her, while Lisa bounced in her chair with excitement. I kept my face neutral, took a sip of water, and said, "Actually, I was planning to leave anyway. I'm going to college in the fall." Mom's eyebrows shot up. "College? We can't afford that, Rachel. You know our financial situation." "Dad's paying for it," I replied, watching their faces transform. The relief that washed over them was almost comical. Steve's shoulders relaxed, and Mom's tight smile loosened. "Oh," she said. "Well, that's good then." I spent the next day packing my life into boxes. The walls of my room, already bare from years of not being allowed to put up posters, "It'll damage the paint, Rachel," seemed to close in on me. Through the thin walls, I could hear Mom and Steve talking in their bedroom. Finally, Steve was saying, his voice gleeful, "No more dealing with Mark's daughter. And the alimony payments will stop too." "I know," Mom replied. "I was worried we'd have to keep her around longer." This worked out perfectly. Their words should have hurt, but I felt nothing but relief. 2 days later, I loaded the last box into Dad's car. Dad had taken a whole week off work, the first vacation he'd had in years, and surprised me with tickets to Hawaii. As our plane took off, I watched my hometown disappear beneath the clouds, feeling lighter with each mile we put between us and that house. "I thought we could use some father-daughter time before college starts," he said, squeezing my hand. For the first time in years, his phone stayed off. We spent our days on the beach, trying to surf, badly, eating at local restaurants, and talking, really talking, about everything and nothing. In the evenings, we'd sit on our hotel balcony, watching the sunset paint the sky in colors I'd never seen back home. One night, as we watched the waves crash against the shore, Dad turned to me. "I'm sorry it took me so long to do this," he said quietly. I leaned my head against his shoulder, breathing in the salt air and the faint scent of his aftershave. "You're here now," I replied. "That's what matters." College felt like breathing fresh air after years of suffocation. I moved into my dorm room that fall, armed with determination and the knowledge that Dad had my back. But I wanted to stand on my own feet too, so I got a job at the campus cafe, the Daily Grind. "Rachel, you don't have to work," Dad insisted during one of our calls. "I can send you a monthly allowance." "I know, Dad, but I want to," I replied, balancing my phone while wiping down tables. "It feels good earning my own money." Between classes, study sessions, and work shifts, I built a life that was entirely my own. My coworkers became friends, my professors became mentors, and slowly, the weight of my past began to lift. I loved the rhythm of my new life: early morning study sessions before my first class, afternoon shifts at the cafe, and late nights in the library with my study group. Dad's business was booming, and he bought a beautiful house in a quiet suburb. During holidays, I'd stay with him, marveling at how peaceful life could be. We'd spend evenings in his home theater or by the pool, and he'd tell me about his plans for the company's expansion. "I have something special planned for when you graduate," he'd say with a mysterious smile. "Dad, paying for my college is already more than enough," I'd protest, but he'd just shake his head and change the subject. Every time I visited, the house felt more like home. I had my own room there, decorated exactly how I wanted it, something I'd never been allowed in my mother's house. Dad even gave me a key, telling me I could come anytime, even when he was away on business trips. Meanwhile, my mother's world continued spinning without me in it. Her social media was a shrine to Lisa: dance recitals, school events, family vacations. Sometimes, relatives would comment on her posts. "How's Rachel doing? Haven't seen her in ages." Mom's replies were always the same: "Oh, she's doing well, living her adult life." As if I was some distant acquaintance she'd lost touch with, not her firstborn daughter. She had no idea I was making Dean's List every semester. Didn't know I'd been promoted to shift supervisor at the cafe. Couldn't tell you what I was majoring in or who my friends were. My life had become a fill-in-the-blank space in her story, and she seemed perfectly content to leave it empty. I threw myself into my studies, determined to make the most of the opportunity Dad had given me. Between classes and work, I joined the business club and even started tutoring younger students in economics. My professors started talking about graduate school possibilities, and for the first time, I could see a clear path forward for my life. One day, scrolling through my feed, I saw a photo of Lisa's 12th birthday party. The house was decorated with balloons and streamers, and Mom had tagged every relative except me. "Our little princess is growing up so fast," the caption read, followed by a dozen heart emojis. I stared at the image for a long moment, then closed the app. That night, as I locked up the cafe, I realized I didn't feel the ache I expected. Instead, I felt light, unburdened, like I'd finally put down a heavy bag I'd been carrying for years. Graduation day was bright and sunny. I spotted Dad in the crowd immediately. He was the one cheering the loudest when they called my name. After the ceremony, while families took photos and celebrated, he pulled me aside with a mysterious smile. "Close your eyes and hold out your hands," he said. I felt something metal drop into my palm. Opening my eyes, I saw a set of keys with a small envelope. "What's this?" I asked, opening the envelope to find an address. "Your graduation present. An apartment in your name, back in hometown. Fully furnished and ready for you to move in." I burst into tears, throwing my arms around him. "Dad, this is too much." "Nothing's too much for my little girl," he said, hugging me tight. The apartment was perfect, modern, spacious, in a quiet neighborhood. I found a job at a local marketing firm, settled into a comfortable routine, and rarely thought about my mother's family anymore. Life was good, simple, peaceful. Then came the phone call that changed everything. The tests came back positive, Dad said, his voice unusually quiet. It's stage 3 pancreatic cancer. The next 2 years became a blur of hospital visits, chemotherapy sessions, and desperate searches for experimental treatments. I watched my strong, vibrant father grow weaker day by day. He fought hard, we both did, but cancer doesn't fight fair. On a rainy Tuesday morning, holding my hand, he took his last breath. He was just 54. I handled the funeral arrangements in a daze. Posted about it on social media, tagging Mom out of obligation more than hope. Her response came hours later. Sorry, but I'm too busy to attend my ex-husband's funeral. Lisa has a dance recital that day. Even in my grief, I couldn't say I was surprised. The reading of the will left me speechless. Dad had left me everything, his company, the house, several investment properties. His lawyer handed me a letter. Dear Rachel, I built all this for you, princess. I'm sorry I can't be there to see what you'll do with it, but I know it'll be something amazing. Take care of yourself first, then others if you can. Love, Dad. I hired Marcus Chen, Dad's trusted VP, to run the company as CEO. He had the experience I lacked, and I knew Dad would approve. Meanwhile, I found my own way to honor his memory, establishing a foundation to help cancer patients and their families. The day we launched the foundation, I stood at the podium, looking out at the crowd. No one should fight cancer alone, I said, my voice steady, despite the tears in my eyes. And thanks to the Mark Anderson Memorial Foundation, no one will have to. That night, alone in my apartment, I looked at Dad's photo on my desk. I hope I'm making you proud, I whispered. The company was thriving, the foundation was helping people, and somehow, through all the grief, I was still standing. Maybe that's what he'd been preparing me for all along. My phone rang on a quiet Sunday afternoon. The name on the screen made my heart skip, Mom. After 9 years of silence, she was calling me. Rachel, can you come over? It's important. Her voice sounded different, strained, older. Against my better judgment, I agreed. Walking up to my old house felt surreal. Mom opened the door, and I barely recognized her. She'd aged dramatically, her face lined with pain. Steve hovered behind her, and there was Lisa, now 19, watching me with curious eyes. In the living room, nothing had changed, same furniture, same photos of Lisa everywhere. Mom lowered herself carefully into her chair, wincing. I need surgery, she said without preamble. Several surgeries, actually. My joints are deteriorating. Without treatment, I could end up immobile. She paused, wringing her hands. I heard about your inheritance from Mark. About the company, the properties. There it was, the real reason for the reunion. We can't afford the surgeries, Steve added, his pride clearly battling with desperation. The insurance won't cover enough. I studied my mother's face, the same face that had dismissed me, forgotten me, ignored me for years. The same woman who couldn't even attend my father's funeral. But underneath all that history, she was still my mother. I'll cover the medical bills, I heard myself say. Mom burst into tears, pulling me into an awkward hug, our first in years. Stay for dinner, she insisted. We have so much catching up to do. Dinner was a strange affair. Between bites, Mom and Steve peppered me with questions. So, how many properties did Mark leave you exactly? Is the company doing well? Are you selling any of the assets? I deflected each question with practiced ease. The estate is quite complicated, I'd say, where everything's in trusts and legal arrangements. Lisa watched this dance with sharp eyes, eerily similar to how I used to watch Mom and Steve's late-night conversations through the years. As I drove home that night, I wondered if I'd made the right decision. I had the means to help, and despite everything, some small part of me still hoped that maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. The next day, I contacted the hospital to arrange payment for Mom's surgeries. Whatever happened next, at least I knew I'd done what Dad would have wanted, being better than the hurt I'd been given. The surgeries were successful. I paid each medical bill without question, and within months, Mom was walking normally again. That's when the invitations started coming. "Rachel, come for Sunday dinner." "Rachel, we're having a barbecue." "Rachel, Lisa misses you." Each visit felt like walking on eggshells. Mom would reminisce about my childhood, conveniently editing out the painful parts. Steve would ask casual questions about Dad's company. Lisa would watch me with a mixture of expectation and something else I couldn't quite identify. "We're finally a family again," Mom would say, reaching for my hand across the table. But I noticed how her eyes never quite met mine when she said it. When the invitation came for Lisa's 20th birthday party, I decided to make an effort. I bought her the latest iPhone, top model, all the bells and whistles. Maybe it was an attempt to bridge the gap between us, or maybe I just wanted to give her something I knew she'd like. The party was a small affair, just the four of us. No friends, no other relatives. Mom had insisted on keeping it intimate, though now I understood why. Lisa unwrapped the iPhone with barely concealed disappointment. "Oh, thanks," she said flatly, setting it aside without even opening the box. She kept glancing at Mom, as if waiting for something. Then came dinner, and Mom cleared her throat in that way I remembered all too well from childhood, the sound that always preceded something unpleasant. "Rachel, sweetheart," she began, her voice honey-sweet. "The phone is lovely, but we were thinking you could give Lisa something more substantial." I paused, fork halfway to my mouth. "What do you mean?" "Well," Mom continued, sharing a look with Steve, "we know your father left you several properties. And Lisa's graduating from college soon. Wouldn't it be nice if she had her own place? You have so many apartments, surely you could spare one for your sister?" The room went silent. Steve stared intently at his plate, while Lisa leaned forward, eyes bright with anticipation. This was clearly what they'd been building toward all along. I set down my fork carefully, trying to process what I was hearing. All those family dinners, the sudden interest in my life, the constant invitations, it had all been leading to this moment. "No," I said quietly. "I won't be giving away any of my properties." Mom's sweet expression faltered. "But Rachel, it's your sister. Surely your father would have wanted." "Don't," I cut her off. "Don't you dare tell me what my father would have wanted." The room temperature seemed to drop several degrees. Mom's face turned red with anger, while Lisa slumped in her chair, crossing her arms. "How dare you be so selfish?" Mom snapped. "Your sister deserves." "No," I said again, standing up. "What I deserve is to not be used for my money. Not now, not ever." Mom's sweet facade shattered instantly. Her face contorted with rage as she slammed her hands on the table, making the dishes rattle. "You ungrateful little bitch," she screamed. "After everything we've done for you. You're just like your father, selfish and heartless." Lisa shrank back in her chair while Steve stood up, looming over the table. But I wasn't that scared little girl anymore. "Everything you've done for me?" I shot back, standing my ground. "Like throwing me out at 18 the moment Dad's alimony check stopped coming? Like treating me like an unwanted houseguest in my own home? You were never part of this family," Mom shrieked. "You were always in the way, always causing problems. And now you have all this money and won't help your own sister?" She lunged forward, hand raised to strike me. I caught her wrist midair. "Touch me," I said quietly, "and I'll go straight to the police. And then I'll sue you for every penny I spent on your surgeries." The color drained from her face. Steve took a step back. Lisa's mouth hung open. "You wouldn't dare," Mom whispered. "Try me. I'm not that powerless little girl anymore." I grabbed my purse and headed for the door, turning back one last time. "Don't call me again. Don't message me. Don't try to contact me through relatives. We're done." That was more than a year ago. Now I sit in my office, looking out over the city as another one of Mom's messages pops up on my phone. They started coming a week after that dinner, first angry, then pleading, then tearfully apologetic. Please, Rachel, we're family. Your sister misses you. We can work this out. I block each new number, each fake social media account they create. Sometimes I catch myself wondering if I'm being too harsh, if I should give them another chance. But then I remember Dad's words from his letter, take care of yourself first. So that's what I'm doing. The company is thriving under Marcus's leadership. The Cancer Foundation is helping dozens of families. My life is full of meaning and purpose, built on the foundation of love that Dad provided. Yesterday, I received an invitation to Lisa's graduation. Inside was a handwritten note from Mom, please come. We can start over. I dropped it in the shredder without a second thought. Some people say blood is thicker than water, but the family you choose, the bonds you forge through love and trust, those are the ones that truly matter,